I was in Sarajevo on the 28th of June this year, and it's an extraordinary story, this assassination, which you will all have heard of and all have known from school. It's a story of extraordinary chances and coincidences and considerable ineptness. It's an assassination that should not have worked. When the Archduke's convoy first drives along the quayside, all of the assassins flunk it. They lose their nerve, except for one. The youngest assassin was the most unreliable. None of his mates trusted him. They'd actually, 2 days before, confiscated his bomb, which must be the most embarrassing thing for a potential assassin to have done, confiscated. On the morning of the assassination, they give him his bomb back and his pistol, and he wanders off into town, and he meets a friend, and they get chatting to a couple of girls, and they flirt a bit, and he gets his photo taken, and then he goes and waits on the quayside. And when the Archduke's car passes, he's the only one who acts, and he throws his bomb, but he's forgotten the time delay, and the bomb bounces off the car and explodes under the car beneath, and the Archduke drives on. He takes cyanide, that doesn't work when he scars his throat. He's a very bad sore throat during his interrogation. He jumps into the river to drown himself, finds it's only 6 inches deep. This was not a very competent assassination, but these extraordinary coincidences took over. The Archduke decides he will change his plans and visit the officers who were wounded in that bomb explosion. But no one tells the drivers of his convoy. They set off down the quay. The drivers turn the sharp corner according to the original route. One of the officers in the car realises there's been a mistake, yells at the drivers to stop. The driver of the Archduke's car stops and starts to reverse. And that coincidence, that accident, puts the heir to the oppressor empire right in front of one of the assassins who's standing outside a delicatessen. There's a story he went to get a sandwich. I was there on the 28th of June this year, exactly 100 years to the minute after the assassin lifts his revolver at point-blank range and fires 2 shots into the car and kills the heir to the throne and his wife. And the spring explodes. Austria-Hungary cannot overlook this terrible humiliation, the assassination of their heir by a handful of peasant radicals. Russia has been humiliated too often in the Balkans in recent years. Russia cannot allow her client state, Serbia, to go undefended if Austria-Hungary attacks. Germany, meanwhile, has been encouraging Austria-Hungary to take action against Serbia because this suits Germany's interests in southeastern Europe. Germany's General Staff have been calculating about the possibility of war with Russia. They have advised their government that if the war with Russia is going to be fought, it should be fought now, before Russia's military gets so strong that it cannot be defeated. Germany also knows that if this inevitable war with Russia is to be fought, better for Austria-Hungary to be able to hold Russia in the east while Germany defeats France rapidly in the west and thus avoids being caught between 2 powerful armies. France is obliged to defend Russia, and France knows that if the inevitable war is to be fought, it will involve a battle with Germany on its eastern frontier. The only great power not immediately involved in this is Britain, which typically was looking the wrong way. Britain had spent most of that spring, and you can see this if you read the newspapers from 1914, obsessed about the possibility of civil war in the north of Ireland, which was very real, and also by the continuing campaign by suffragettes for the vote, their campaign of dynamiting and picture slashing. Britain was looking the wrong way, and when on the 3rd of August the newspapers carried the news that Germany and France were at war, this was in the shadow of headlines announcing the start of Canterbury's cricket week. The mechanism explodes in an ultimatum from Austria-Hungary and a series of declarations of war between the great powers. On the 6th of August 1914, 100 years ago tonight, the last of the declarations of war that would complete the pattern of the First World War was made. On the 7th of August, 100 years ago tomorrow, the British Expeditionary Force landed in France and was immediately in combat alongside the French army against the attacking Germans. The story of August 1914 for the British and French and Russian forces was one of defeat. After an initial French surge, the Germans pushed back the French and began to sweep down through eastern and northern France and Belgium. For the French armies and the British armies, those weeks of August are one long retreat. Brief last stands, stories of extraordinary heroism and resistance in places like Mons, which have entered the names of so many British regiments. But as the weeks pass through August, the British and French armies are pushed back and pushed back. The news of the First World War, which for everyone was supposed to be over by Christmas, for the British and the French is bleak throughout August.